here's the truth. The lean, strong, athletic bodies that you're seeing are lifting weights, and they're lifting heavier weights. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to become a power lifter. However, it does look like you have understood what it feels like to lift something that is challenging for the muscle groups that you're trying to train. Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Body Podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Hewitt, and as always, I'm here today with a fantastic topic, and one I'm just going to get right to the jugular with. I've been having conversations lately with a lot of folks when it comes to, let's say, weight loss, improving their body composition, looking better with their shirt off at the pool. And in a lot of cases, I've had conversations with people who have thought they've been doing the work. They've been training. They've been, putting in what they say is the work. They've been paying attention to their health, which is fantastic. And they just haven't been getting the results that they've wanted, though. And lo and behold, when you start asking a few critical questions, you can see the mistakes they're making. Now, some of us, when we're in this place, it's like we're in a place of just unconscious incompetence. And I've been here my whole life with everything. When at first you don't know what you don't know. So that's why they always say the first step is awareness. After that, you become consciously incompetent, right? So you actually know, like, okay, well, here's where I'm leaving money on the table. Here's where I'm not actually getting data-driven, specific, actionable steps. Here's where I'm continuing to sabotage my own results. And I'm going to stop making excuses. I'm going to stop blaming my genetics. I'm going to stop blaming my age. I'm going to stop blaming the fact that I'm too busy, and I'm willing to take action. And this is where you then become consciously competent. And once you do this over a period of time and you start to see results and it becomes your lifestyle, then you just become unconsciously competent, which is a fantastic place to be when it comes to your health, because there's so many things to worry about in this life. Family, employment, jobs, relationships, etc. Being worried about health isn't fun. It takes up a lot of mind share, which is why a lot of people they struggle with this category. So if you're training, you're sweating, you're showing up, but you're still not getting jacked, well, I'm here to tell you that there are probably 5 really good reasons you're not. And we're going to break down those 5 right now. So, number 1, and this goes for actually the majority of people I work with. And for me, this was a big problem for a lot of years, simply because I didn't, number 1, realize the importance of the impact of proper sleep when it comes to recovery, especially when listen, the ultimate reason we want to get healthier and leaner and more jacked is to be healthier. I want to live longer. I want to be healthier. Looking better and looking great is fantastic also. It's not about vanity. It's about confidence. It's about being proud of the work you're putting in, and you want it to show. But here's the thing. If you sleep like shit, because you think you're a night owl, for example, it's just not true. We have this perfect design that we're not nocturnal animals. Like, let's get real. Your physiology and your brain says otherwise. You're not someone who is designed to stay up all night because you think you're more creative at night, because you think those are the hours where you're just more alert and awake and alive. Like, you've just taught yourself how to be that way. So if you stay up, especially scrolling or binge watching Netflix, not even just like working late, I can guarantee you there will be a point where your body will stop changing. So the real truth is sleep is where the real gym is. That's when the actual gains happen. It is where your body repairs, right? You tear muscle down during the day when you train, but at night when you sleep, this is actually where all of those repair mechanisms happen most effectively. This is where your body continues to burn fat as you sleep. It resets your hormones, detoxifies, declutters your brain. There's a million reasons. There's a lot of fantastic books out there about the benefits of sleep. Why We Sleep is one of my favorite books when it comes to this category. If you're interested in deepening your understanding, you don't need to know about all, the benefits of sleep, though. Just know that it is really, really important. Growth hormone. Most of you have probably heard about growth hormone. It is secreted by your brain. Your pituitary gland secretes growth hormone at night within the first couple hours of deep sleep. And this is essential for muscle protein synthesis, fat oxidation. And if you miss this window, especially if you miss it consistently because you're staying up too late, you've already crushed some of your recovery potential. Your testosterone, okay? This goes both for men and women. When your T levels rise as you sleep and recover. You should wake up in the morning with your testosterone levels at their peak. But if you shorten up your recovery window by screwing up your sleep, you're going to just wake up with lower than optimal testosterone. This will affect your day. This will affect your libido, your ability to repair and put on muscle, have optimal brain physiology for memory recall, for energy, etc. And the pretty much opposite hormone, cortisol. When you don't sleep, cortisol tends to dominate. This is a catabolic hormone or a hormone that breaks you down. It's important. However, it eats away at your muscle and makes it easier for you to store fat if you're not careful. If you are chronically stressed, if you're not sleeping well, especially helping you put more fat around your belly, which is not desirable for anybody. And then the last one I'll talk about is this is where your brain gets to repair and detoxify. It's well known that this is where your brain it stores new memories. It helps you reset a lot of that physiology in your brain. The lymphatic system washes toxins out of your brain at night. If you skip your deep sleep cycles, your nervous system never truly recovers, and you're going to feel that in the morning. Okay, if you constantly feel like you're not rested in the morning, when you wake up, if you have difficulties getting out of bed, listen, it's probably due to your inconsistent sleep schedule. So, my advice is stop bragging about being a night owl. It is not good for you. It is not good for anybody. And I've done a podcast about this. You can scroll back to an earlier episode where I talk about one of the number one underrated health issues in the Western world is sleep deprivation. If you're somebody who has a night shift or a graveyard shift, you're literally taking years off your life and sabotaging a lot of your physiology and your health. So, number one, if you want to get jacked, fix your sleep. And I'm going to recommend you go back to a podcast I did about sleep. It's going to give you a lot of good ways you can do that. Number two, you're delusional about what you eat. this is far too common, and I don't say it to insult anybody. I say it because I just see so many people living in fantasy land when it comes to what they put in their body, and even for those who have tracked before. Um, a lot of people have no idea how much they're eating, what they're eating, all of the things that they eat during the day unconsciously, like whether it's snacking or especially the amount of times that people go out to eat. This is a really big killer for having optimal physiology, for having optimal recovery, for having just optimal, physique in general. For example, like a healthy burrito bowl that a lot of people say, like, listen, I still want to go to Chipotle. It's like, okay, tell me what you put in your burrito bowl. And they just be like, oh, I'd put, extra guac. We get the rice and we get, a scoop of meat, and then we do this and that. And by the end of it, it's like, yeah, you just ate 2,000 calories worth of food in one sitting. Yeah, that night out where you just had a couple of drinks, some appetizers, that could literally be your whole daily caloric intake in like a span of 3 hours. So here's the kicker. If you do this more than twice a week, you're probably blowing up your entire calorie deficit, for example. If you're trying to be in a deficit and have some sustainable weight loss, you're killing your gains by going out to eat. I've done episodes on this, telling people about the benefits of making sure that you are meal prepping meals at home and doing your own shopping, or at the very least have a meal service where the foods you're putting in your body, the macro contents, etc. Restaurant foods just have so many hidden calories, whether it's oils, sugars, dressings, sauces, just so many additional calories that you can't control and you can't measure. And let's not even get too deep into the protein discussion. I've talked at length about this before, but most people think they get enough protein, and inevitably, they're not even eating 100 grams of protein a day. If you're not getting like a gram of protein per pound of body weight, is a fairly it's a pretty loose recommendation. It's not perfect. Especially if you're someone who's really heavy and you're trying to lose weight, it might be not a good way to measure that. Um, if you know your lean body mass, that's a better way to decide. There's different calculators you can use, but listen, you have to be eating enough protein in order to maintain your lean body tissue. What you don't want to be doing is in a deficit, have your body eating away on your muscle. Okay. It's not a good way to lose weight. It's not a good way to get the physique you want. It's not sustainable. This is why a lot of people end up blowing up and gaining all the weight after they've been in a deficit for 3, 6 months. A lot of people I've seen do these long keto or carnivore types of diets. Like, yeah, they're eating enough protein, but they're under eating calories for a long time in too much of a deficit. So really the fundamentals, you want to make sure that if you're trying to eat a deficit, you eat a slight deficit, making sure you're getting enough protein and you backfill with real foods, right? Whether that's starches, fruits, veggies, whole grains, etc. So, if you're, the other thing that I see too is there's far too often where we'll stay disciplined for a period of time until the next party comes up or the next holiday, or, oh, it's summertime, it's the long weekend. And then it's my birthday, and then it's Halloween, and then it's Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas, and then it's Super Bowl. There's going to always be the next thing, you guys. There will always be another party. There will always be another reason for you to want to overeat, to binge on the alcohol, on the snacks, etc. Now, I'm not saying to be perfect. I'm saying to earn your spots, right? Earn the opportunities for you to be able to take a break from your diet, right? To be able to have that. I don't like the term cheat meal. I like the term, having a unscheduled meal. And you can still make better choices doing that. You can still center it around protein. You could still have a dessert. You could still have a drink or two. But you have to earn those opportunities to do that. And that doesn't look like doing it twice a week. So the simple fact is, a lot of folks that have not been able to lose weight, or they're training and they're not seeing changes with their body composition or their scale, in a lot of cases, it's because they've never tracked their food properly and actually been very objective about what they've been eating. So if you never tracked your macros, for example, you're probably living in fantasy. It's very simple. Getting a tracking app, weighing and measuring your food might seem a little neurotic, but it's a good exercise to do for a period of time. That way you can actually see, hey, this is what 50 grams of protein looks like, for example. This is how much 6 ounces of sweet potato looks like. This is a cup of rice. Those types of things can be very valuable in order for you to really understand, like, okay, well, this is the caloric content of these things. These are the macronutrient profiles. You don't have to become a nutritional scientist in order to understand the fundamentals of eating healthy. But in a lot of cases, it helps to have even just rudimentary knowledge of what's actually happening. And that's where the magic starts to happen when you become disciplined, when you understand, when you become consciously competent at what you're doing, you will see results. You will see results. There is no way to um, there's no way to defeat the laws of thermodynamics, right? There are principles that you cannot ignore, right? Like the principle of making sure you're sleeping properly. And here's the second principle of making sure that you're in energy balance, or if you're trying to be in a deficit, that you're in an energy deficit and that you're eating enough protein. Okay. Number three reason you're not seeing results, even though you're putting in the work in the gym, is you're training like a cardio bunny. If you're training like a cardio bunny, in other words, you're trying to lean out and lose weight by doing endless cardio. You're doing these high intensity interval training workouts where you're just constantly moving for 30 to 60 minutes, right? Jumping from the treadmill to, some dumbbells, and then you're back on the rower, and then you're back, you're doing these what look like metabolic conditioning workouts, high intensity interval workouts, or circuit training. And you think that more sweating equals more progress. Here's the truth. The lean, strong, athletic bodies that you're seeing are lifting weights, and they're lifting heavier weights. Okay. It doesn't mean you have to become a power lifter. However, it does look like you have understood what it feels like to lift something that is challenging for the muscle groups that you're trying to train. And then you're recovering properly between sets in order to allow for your muscles to recover and your nervous system to recover. Okay, that's what muscle building requires. You may have heard the term progressive overload before. What this means is that you are progressively and consistently lifting heavier and heavier weights over time, and or more volume over time, because you're building more work capacity. You cannot do this if you are not demanding your muscles to be able to do that. Now, it doesn't mean you're just on an endless increase with your weights, okay? Because there will be progress that will become stalled at some point. But you're going through waves of, lifting heavier and heavier and heavier, and then you're taking what are called deload weeks, where you're letting your body fully recover, and you're sticking with a program consistently enough where you're seeing the results, and then you can switch up movements. But in a lot of cases, what I see a mistake a lot of people make is they jump around programs. Okay, they don't stick with a program for 3 to 6 months and train consistently without missing a workout. And then they're saying, "Oh, this didn't work for me." It's like, well, did you work the program? And in a lot of cases, no. I went back to jumping around from machine to machine and on the treadmill and trying to get more of a sweat on. Okay, there are times and places for getting a sweat on, for sure. I'm a huge proponent of that. But you need to be working with the fundamentals of progressive overload. Neural recruitment is a big part of that too. In other words, you need to rest between sets so your nervous system can fire again at full strength. So in other words, you're allowing your body to lift heavy and become exhausted, right? In the muscle, but then also in your nervous system. Then you recover so you can get back to your full potential to lift heavier again. And that you are practicing fundamentals of time under tension. So, in other words, you're allowing your muscles to break down and adapt. Okay, so you are, demanding enough of your muscles over a workout time with proper recovery. You're spending enough time under tension to exhaust the muscles, so they have to recover and become stronger afterwards. So hit training, high intensity interval training, has its place for conditioning. I've done lots and lots of this. But here's the deal. You cannot hit your way to building more muscle. There is going to be, a place where you're going to plateau with this strategy. So men and women fall into this trap. Women who want to tone up, for example, or men that want to lean out, and they're afraid to lift heavy okay, and stick with it long enough to see results, you're going to stall with your progress. This also happens with cardio. You're just on the treadmill for 60 minutes, 4 or 5 days a week. If you want, if you want the look of having a strong body, right, lean, toned muscle, you need to be having progressive overload strength training. Okay, ride it out for months. You're not days to weeks, and you are sprinkling in some conditioning as well. That's how you get jacked. Okay. Reason number 4, you consume alcohol routinely. This was a tough one for me to get to come to terms with. I was always really good with the training piece. I was always learning more and more about how to lift heavier, with progressive overload and time under tension and volume and programs. And I was really consistent and sticking with it. What really helped me with my sleep also was coming to terms with how routine alcohol consumption was sabotaging the results I wanted. This one crushes more people than they realize. Alcohol is one of the top killers for building lean muscle and losing body fat because it, number one, wrecks your sleep. You don't hit those light REM and deep sleep cycles as you would with a proper, normal, healthy sleep. It suppresses growth hormone production. We talked about this, how growth hormone is really important for helping you lose visceral body fat, which is the fat around your abdominal region, to convert into IGF-1 in the liver and testosterone production, etc. Alcohol really crushes the optimal hormone profiles. Alcohol also blocks muscle protein synthesis. What you need to know about this is when you drink alcohol, it literally shuts down your body's mechanisms to rebuild muscle tissue. It prevents your body from burning fat because alcohol metabolism takes priority, and it promotes visceral fat. So, again, that's the dangerous fat built around the abdominal regions, around your organs. So, the kicker to this, and what I had to come to terms with, is it wasn't just the weekend 3 or 4 drinks in a night. It was the routine alcohol. It was the as little as 1 drink a day. This flies in the face of what was conventional wisdom that, hey, 1 alcohol drink per day was healthy, or it's no big deal. Well, I tell you what, whether it's a routine alcohol consumption of 1 to 2 a day or a weekend binge, it's enough to crush your progress. It just seems that you cannot outtrain alcohol, period, especially as you get to the ages of 35 or more, 40s and 50s, especially later. If you're drinking every weekend and wondering why your abs don't show, that's potentially the top reason. Okay, reason number 5, you don't get routine blood work. This is a big one for a lot of people that, first of all, they don't track their sleep. They don't track their macronutrients and their nutrition. They don't track their training. They're routinely consuming alcohol and not paying attention. But number 5, they're not getting routine blood work, um, and not looking under the hood. And really, this is a recipe for a lot of guesswork. You might be training hard, eating what you consider properly. But here's the thing: if your hormones are tanked, if your thyroid's off, your nutrient profiles are low, like your vitamin D, your B vitamins, your blood sugar is wrecked from stress, and you have no idea. You're spinning your wheels. Right? Functional blood chemistry is, I think, the 21st century cheat code to giving you a blueprint of what you need to do in order to have optimal health, in order for you to help you lose body fat, to help you recover and build muscle and build the physique that you desire. So, yeah, the the blood work really helps you point to a lot of your, first of all, your hormone imbalances, your nutrient imbalances, including vitamin D, which is more of a pro hormone, but things like vitamin D, things like B vitamins, iron levels, etc., blood sugar issues. So I've seen people grind for years, myself included, and never, stop making progress with their results, with their athletic performance, with their body composition, until they actually looked at their labs and fixed what was holding them back. So for me, and I've told some of the story before, so I was a competitive CrossFitter, and I continued to CrossFit for a long time. I absolutely loved it, and I think CrossFit's fantastic. I did it at the competitive level. And I even, shifted into doing more functional bodybuilding afterwards. But it wasn't until I got my blood work that I really saw what was going on under the hood. I saw that my kidneys were becoming stressed, my liver, my ferritin levels were elevated, and it was causing unwanted inflammation. My blood sugars were not healthy. My cholesterol profiles were not ideal, and my testosterone was tanked. It was in the 300s. My free testosterone was below 100. My IGF-1 levels were below 150, I believe. I was a disaster, and all the meanwhile, being somebody who is a health practitioner and preaching from the rooftops about all the right things to do. And lo and behold, my numbers look like shit. And it wasn't any surprise because the results spoke for themselves. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I didn't feel fantastic, especially once I got to be 35, 40 years old. And here's what happened. I got a Whoop in 2018. I started to track my sleep. I then saw the routine impacts of what happened when I did not have a solid sleep schedule, where I was going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, even on weekends. I saw what routine alcohol consumption was doing to my heart rate variability, to my resting heart rate, and how it was affecting my sleep and my recovery. And I started to get really more disciplined and regimented about my nutrition and what I was doing with my macros, what I was doing with my meal plans. I got really strict with meal prepping, making sure that I was eating similar meals every day so I could track my progress. And I have fortunately an in-body scan at my office. So I was looking at my body composition routinely so I could see what my lean body tissue was, my body fat percentage. And finally, I got on a progressive strength program. The base of, so I did a lot of conditioning over the years. So what I was missing out on was routine progressive overload strength-based training. I'd always done strength, but I was doing more high intensity interval and metabolic conditioning. So I got more biased towards hypertrophy and strength work, with maybe 25% of my training, more cardio hit type training. And then got really regimented, like I said, with my sleep, with my macronutrient and protein, and as well as cutting out alcohol as much as possible. And this is how I was able to really correct most of my body composition issues. But the root of what changed it all for me is when I finally got some functional blood chemistry. And this is what got my journey started with Weaponized Wellness, was I got to see what my hormone profiles look like, as well as everything else, and figured out, yeah, my testosterone was completely smashed. And despite making all these shifts and changes to my lifestyle, I still needed some testosterone support to really help me get to the results that I wanted. So I fixed my hormones, fixed my sleep, fixed my nutrition, fixed my routine alcohol consumption, fixed my training. So, and I know this is a big issue for a lot of people because they are unable to really understand how all of these things work in synergy and impact the results they desire. So here are some action steps I want you to take away from this. So it's essentially telling you to stop guessing and start testing, right? Number one, track your food. You can use MyFitnessPal, chronometer, whatever works for you. Shoot for your protein goal and, control your calories, fill in your calories with real foods. Number two, track your sleep. All right. So tracking your sleep with Whoop, Oura, it doesn't matter. Even a simple like sleep journal. You want to aim for, between 7 to 9 hours consistently a night, consistent sleep and wake times. Track your training, right? So log your lifts, Progressive overload, if only works if you know what you did last time. Making sure that you're sticking to a program. Okay, hire a trainer, hire someone to program for you. That's how you're going to optimize your strength and your hypertrophy results. Fix alcohol. Replace it with things like, here's what I did. I replaced it with things like sparkling water, mocktails, adaptogenic drinks, hop waters. There's all kinds of stuff out there. If you find yourself just reaching for that glass of wine or that whiskey at night, there's easy ways to replace that with, non-alcoholic beverages, non-caloric heavy beverages. Even sometimes when you're out and you don't feel like drinking, or that that's not going to help you, there's ways around that, sparkling waters, soda waters, etc. It's not the most fun. Okay. Like I said, just earn your booze, pick your spots. As long as it doesn't turn into something where it's like routinely, especially like, less. For me, it's like 1 to 2 times a month, I'll have 1 to 2. But the thing is, I got to an optimal body composition first before I loosened up and started doing that. And the last one, of course, is get routine blood work done. Okay. At least once, preferably twice per year. Work with a functional provider who is doing comprehensive labs, not a routine physical like 19 biomarkers. Okay, we're talking at least 45 to 50, if not upwards of 100, at least once a year. That way you're getting an understanding of what's going on under the hood from a full spectrum of, your physiology. Like I said, we do this with Weaponized Wellness. We do basic and VIP panels. Those are, 45 biomarker and 85 biomarker panels. And this is a way that you can really help tailor your lifestyle, your supplement protocols, your hormone optimization, even peptide therapies, etc. Here's the bottom line. If you're not getting the results that you're looking for, if you're looking to get jacked, and it's not always about just training harder and sweating more. It's about removing the roadblocks that are stopping you from getting the progress you desire. So fix these 5 things, and I believe that you'll finally unlock the results you're chasing. So, and if you need more assistance, feel free, shoot me a DM, send me an email, drryan@theweaponizedbody.com. Hire a trainer, hire someone to help you with your nutrition, who knows what they're doing. Get some functional blood chem done, track your sleep, and get those hard-earned results that you're looking for. So again, thanks for tuning in to the Weaponized Body Podcast. If this episode hit home, share it with a friend, drop a review, rate the podcast. I'll keep spreading truth with you guys, about how to build a strong, weaponized body. So stay strong, stay weaponized. I'll catch you guys next time.